Hey, y'all. I'm going to give this a minute and see if notifications go out. I doubt they will. Hey, Skip to my Lou, if you're still here. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful. I thought it was Wednesday all day today. For some reason, anytime the girls are home, I get so off schedule with what I'm doing. Keke, we don't need to start out like this. Keke's got something to say already. He's putting his butt in everybody's face. All right, y'all. We're getting right back into it. Going right back into it. Hey, Zero. So tonight's conversation will be about the Tim Ballard situation. We are actually diving straight first into the Glenn Beck response. It's a little outrageous. Oh, you're up late. Of course, you're always up late, I think. Zero, today was wild. I'm sure you saw a lot of it, but today was just wild. I don't know what's going on out here. I'm about to think that I'm the one that needs medicated because these people have made my head just spin out here. I don't know what's going on, but hey, Perry. All right. Anybody in here familiar with Glenn Beck? Anybody know who? It was crazy. Bella, you're fine. Let him be. I've got company. Hold on. Let me show you guys. There's Bella, the little one. And then Keke. You guys can't see it. Keke is bugging her. He's grabbing onto her chair. Your friend was a ghostwriter. Hey, D-Lan. Hey, Mercedes. Hey, Blank Slate. Christy. Really? No, really. Wow, she wrote Snow Angel for him. I bet that was a wild experience working for him. Bella knows who Beck is. Absolutely. Would Drake Aileen? Today's been wild. Hey, babe. I miss you. Hey, when you're not home. All right, y'all. We're going to hop right into it. We're not going to waste any time because he doesn't really say a whole lot, but I'm going to get through it. So this is on the Glenn Beck podcast from Apple. Hopefully you guys will be able to see and hear everything. So I'm just playing it like this. It's not super long, so kind of short, sweet, to the point. But he makes a pretty powerful statement. Do you see what Keke's doing, babe? He's torturing Bella and she's not having it. Oh, babe, I got to send you a picture. Oh, here comes Dexter. Hold on. Dexter gets mad because Bella gets the chair because he can't fit in the chair with him. So he gets mad because he's like, really, Christy? See, there's bits and pieces of him like I can appreciate. Actually, I really appreciated this interview. I will be quite frank. I'm not a fan of him 9 times out of 10. Like, I'm not a fan of what he does. But I will say that compared to what I thought was going to happen, I was kind of shocked that I didn't come away from it like, ugh, I don't like you anymore at all, more than I didn't like before. So we're going to hop right in. This is from October 4th. So the title of this one, if you guys want to listen to the rest of it too, Donald Trump for Speaker of the House. That's the podcast it's from yesterday morning. So let's hop right in. And I'm going to pause it, of course. As you guys know, this is fair use. It's not super long. Let's go.
All righty, Stu. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Yeah.
My life is good. How is yours?
My life is great, too.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, good to hear. So, well, let me start this the way I was going to start it after hours of show prep. There is a story out about Tim Ballard and Operation OUR.
Maybe I should give a little backstory first for those of you that might not know. So the reason why Glenn Beck is making a statement on this is because Glenn Beck and Tim Ballard have been friends for years. Glenn Beck is also, from my understanding, he's still LDS. He was baptized in 1999. I think he's still, I couldn't find anything about him disowning the church. So I'm assuming he's still part of the church. However, a lot of times people leave the church and it's not a big deal or anything, but I'm pretty sure he's still LDS. However, I could be wrong on that. But him and Tim have been really good buddies for quite some time. He has been a huge donator to all of Tim's different funds. He's been on many of these trips with Tim. He kind of helped build Tim into the man he is. Glenn Beck is known for Blaze Media and other media companies that he associates with. He's worth, on estimate, between 150 to 250 million dollars. A lot of big money people here that we're talking about that are all interwoven. So the reason why this is important is because Glenn Beck was a very prominent part of OUR and its foundation.
And
hey, everybody. Hey,
I am not going to comment on rumors. And I didn't know how to address this.
Sheila.
There were stories that were going around that there were these women that Tim, what would you say? Because there's nothing illegal charged in this. I guess was just, on missions with and broke his marriage covenant with his wife. And he has been all over saying that he doesn't really know what the charges are. He doesn't know who his accusers are.
Let me say this very clearly. There is no legal charges pending as of right now that I can find anywhere. So he is talking about charges in the form of allegations. There has been allegations of sexual misconduct and other things with Tim's involvement with Operation Underground Railroad and his establishment of all of that. And the sexual misconduct, supposedly the allegations are being rumored that it was between operatives, female operatives of OUR while Tim was still there. He is no longer with OUR. He stepped away from OUR before the release of the movie Sound of Freedom. So just to clarify, he's not talking charges in the sense of legal charges. And
none of the things that they say is true.
Hey, Helen.
And for several days when it first broke, I and some others were on the phone with Tim all the time. At 3:00 in the morning on Sunday morning, just a couple of weeks ago, I'm on the phone trying to talk him down. If this is true, then you have something to worry about. But you say this isn't true, so trust in God.
So as you all know, I'm not like a super religious person whatsoever. It's going to take a little bit more than trusting in God at this point because the allegations are very serious. There is also a lot of people's lives that have been affected by this. There's a lot of people that he's been involved with that have deep pockets, such as Tony Robbins, which we're going to do a whole deep dive on, which is wild in itself. Glenn Beck, State Attorney General Sean Reyes, a lot of wealthy, to-do politicians and other prominent figures within the LDS Church and other religions, so on and so forth. So this is a big deal, and it's going to take a little bit more than trusting in God, in my opinion. However, you can tell already by what he said, the phone call at 3:00 in the morning, that they are good friends. Like, it's a friend if you're on the phone at 3:00 in the morning. It's not just some random acquaintance.
And
yes, Lorraine,
his story started to fall apart by Sunday. And I came in on Monday, and I don't even know if I said this on the air. I doubt I did, but I was so close to ending the show about 20 minutes in. I looked at Stu in the first commercial break and I said, I can't do this because I don't know what's true anymore. Because I had been friends with Tim Ballard for so long and I had felt completely duped. And if I thought, if I don't know that about somebody who I'm close to, how can I possibly come on the air and tell people what is true? I have no idea, obviously.
That's the second person we have said verbatim, I feel like I've been duped. Jimmy Rex said the exact same thing, that he felt like he had been duped. Eric basically said the same thing, but not in those exact words, but Eric's a whole problem in himself, so there's that.
But I didn't want to say anything until we had facts. And quite honestly, I don't trust anybody with facts. I don't even trust me. I didn't want to do the investigation on my own. I'm not an investigative reporter. And I wanted something that you could read and come to the end and go, okay. So hundreds of man hours in an investigative story. Hundreds of man hours. It has consumed much of the work at Blaze Media for the last 2 weeks. And it has consumed me waiting. Last night I got the story, and it was supposed to be published, and I got it last night because I was going to share it with you. And then we got a call from attorneys. Now, this story, we checked with Tim Ballard. We talked to, I believe, 5 different women.
5. So as we all know, the alleged victims, there was supposedly, according to the Vice article, they quoted 7. The attorney said the number was close to that. He claims that there's at least 5 that he's spoken to. So that kind of also narrows down, like, yes, this is very likely that there is 5 and above, at least, if he spoke to 5 of them. And just so you know, there's also a lot of 501c that have connections between Glenn Beck and Tim Ballard. There's a whole lot. We haven't even gotten to the whiteboard stuff because there's just so much to get through here.
That are making these charges, and OUR. And the charges are pretty ugly. And we were hoping to publish on Monday, but we still couldn't get Tim to go on record. And so we didn't feel it was right to just have charges and not answers for them.
Nobody can get Tim on the record. That's been a problem all along. And all these people continue to say, like, he was blindsided by this. They didn't know. BS. Again, we've talked about how these rumors had been circulating for quite some time. They had reached out to Tim numerous times, explained to him what was going to be released, what they had found. He was as well aware as everybody else what was coming out. But he refuses to go on record and speak to anybody. Yet he's dropping weird Instagram stuff. His wife has gone on podcasts, like just really strange things. But this is somebody that he supposedly respected, had a very big time business relationship with, and they can't even get him on the record. That says a whole lot.
So we talked to everyone, and our goal was to be fair and honest. And I think,
Christy, we're going to do a whole breakdown of those because it's extensive.
This is one of the fairest articles I've read in maybe 20. It's because it's journalism. That's what it is. It's journalism. It's not gotcha. It's nothing. It's journalism. And it's simply looking for the truth.
You're saying we and our a lot? Did you have anything to do with the actual journalism in the story?
I mean we because of Blaze Media.
Okay. You weren't. You didn't do the investigation.
No, and I didn't want anything to do with the investigation. In fact, I when the story was handed, somebody reached out to me and said the women want to tell their story. They want to tell it to you, and I'm like, I'm too close to it. I don't want.
Because Tim's a friend.
Yeah,
and he's been a friend for a long time.
And I was beginning to feel betrayed, and I was torn. I could either, my friendship could cloud it, or the fact that I was starting to feel if I started to believe them, maybe I would go too far,
right?
And slaughter. And I didn't want to do either of those things.
So I got to give him respect on that because he stepped away. He realized he was too close to the situation. Oh, yes. Autumn, that's a whole other piece of it too, because the Smarts walked away too. They were a part of OUR. We talked about that briefly before when we were talking about the Sound of Freedom, which we haven't discussed in a while, really in-depthly, but there's a whole piece with the Smart family, these 501Cs, all of this stuff. Like, it is crazy. But for me, I did give Glenn a little bit of respect here because the fact that he realizes and recognized that he would be biased in this whichever way it was. But I still can't get behind. Hey, Miss Leah. Hey, Kels. Hey, everybody popping in. It's a lot to, it's where I'm having a hard time. Let me be completely frank. So where I'm having a really hard time with this whole situation is these guys have been around Tim their entire lives, or not their entire lives, but for the last at least 7-10 years, most of them on average, I would say, and I'm talking Tony Robbins, all of those guys, like they have been around him for quite some time. So the fact that none of them even had an inkling of any of this stuff going on, that's weird to me, because a lot of these guys were on operations with him. They traveled with him. They were part of his family. Like there's people that say like locals to Eagle Mountain, which is where Tim and his family are. That's not public information. That's public information. It is not private. I'm not doxing them, but they are in an area of Utah where people could see these jets, private jets flying in and out and go into Tim's house and stuff. So there is a lot of big connection, a lot of big, like these guys were buddies. And for the fact that I don't know, I'm having a hard time believing that with all of me, if I'm being quite frank, but think open-mindedly. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt here, because I also can sense some frustration in him too.
Okay. I just want to know the truth. That's all I want.
Yeah, Helen.
And so when they called, I called, it was passed on to Leon Wolf, our news director. And I said to him and the journalist beforehand, I have nothing to do with this. I just want you to know we're coworkers. But don't ever think, well, this is going to bother Glenn, or this is going to, nothing.
Hey,
pursue the truth. I don't care how it ends, where it ends. I just want to know the truth. So they did. And my gosh, we bent over backwards to make sure we checked and double checked and did all of the investigative stuff that we're supposed to do. And I have opinions now because I've read the story. But I can't read the story to you now. And I'll tell you why I think this happened. Late last night, apparently the attorneys for the women called and said, you can't publish this. We didn't give permission. And we're like, yes, you did. And it's all on tape. And they said, well, we haven't, we're their attorneys. We haven't given permission. Like, well, sorry. However, we said we wouldn't run it because we're not going to re-victimize people.
That I have to have respect for right there. So obviously the women had given consent to be recorded and do these interviews with their journalist. However, the attorneys that are representing the victims, alleged victims, that I guess if you want to call them, I tend to believe the victims until otherwise. So to me, victims is fitting. Anyways, but he says he doesn't want to re-victimize them. If you pay attention to the words that he uses, after he's read the story, he's considering them victims, to be using the word re-victimizing them. In my opinion, again, but
if their story is true,
hey, Willow,
then I'm not going to be a part, and the Blaze media is not going to be a part of re-victimizing people. Here's what I think happened, and I'll give you two scenarios, but what I think happened all through this story, these women were terrified. I know I talked to a guy who was a inside source, and he said he is so worried he's moving his family away when this story breaks.
All right, let me put into perspective here what we're talking about all of a sudden, because this just got really serious for those of you guys that don't know. We have a male whistleblower from within OUR that has been, helping piece together things and verify things for a lot of these journalists. He is so concerned and fearful of what's going to come after this article is released that he is moving his family out of Utah because of the fear of what is to come from the fallout of this. This is a huge deal. It's not some political smear campaign. It's nothing. This is real people's lives. And we're talking about people with a lot of fucking money, a lot of political connections, a lot of insanity. These people have been in these undercover ops. So you have paramilitary people who are afraid of their safety and their family's safety, that they are moving out of state if this releases. Put that into perspective. This is somebody who worked with this organization that went into some of the worst situations ever, but they're going to move because they're afraid of this. Yeah, Nephi told them to announce on 10/10. I wonder if that's coming this week.
That's how terrified he is. These women are not only terrified because, quite honestly, Tim Ballard is known as a good guy. He is liked by a lot of people. He was a friend of mine.
And he's disliked by a lot of people, too, because of his shady behavior. Nothing more, nothing less.
I still consider him a friend, but a friend, I think, who is gravely misguided and needs to change his ways.
Okay. A friend that is misguided and needs to change his ways. That could mean a whole lot of stuff. You can interpret that, unfortunately, because he's not releasing the article, it's kind of hard. You have to kind of read. This is my biggest issue, is it is so hard. It is like plucking to find little bits and pieces here and there. Like it is like pulling teeth to get any truth. Tim Ballard refuses to go on record, but he has always done that. Tim is ridiculous. We've heard Jimmy Beck. We've heard Eric talk. We've heard all of these people come out and say stuff, but there's nothing solid that we can say 100%. This is who is making the allegations. This is exactly what they are. Even the church, there's rumors of excommunication. The church still hasn't confirmed. However, people with inside information have been able to realize Tim, or, go into the system and realize he's been removed out of the family household. He's not the head of household anymore. So there's a lot of things that lead to these assumptions, but nobody's being honest, and it really sucks.
With that being said, I still could be wrong.
Hey, Liza.
I wasn't there, but I have seen the text messages. I have read the quotes and listened to the tape of the interviews. And I will tell you, I believe one side.
He believes one side. And after his comment about Tim was a friend, but I think he's misguided, he also said that he doesn't want to re-victimize the victims. My opinion, just on his wording so far, is that he believes the victims. Now, what makes him believe the victims? I can't tell you, because unfortunately, we don't know. Hopefully we will, but right now we don't.
But I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings me no joy to say this. I found out about this with the attorneys after doing all of the show prep on it and everything else.
Yes.
I found out about this, 35 minutes ago, that I couldn't share the actual story with you. But I will tell you that it is disturbing, and I would urge the women who are involved to call their attorney and give permission. I know you're afraid, but the truth sets you free. Let the chips fall where they may.
That's kind of easy for you to say, though, Glenn, because you have, you're worth like millions of dollars. These are common citizens that volunteered their time as ops for OUR to do a good deed for humanity. They have families. They are pillars in their communities. Obviously, some of them are very upstanding citizens. I don't know their connection because I don't know who they are, but they are trusted members of society to be able to do this type of work. This is easy for you to say sitting behind a screen. These are their real lives, and these people are within reach. And when I mean within reach, these are people who have done undercover operations, we've heard some of the stories that have came out about stuff that they have done to, bust traffickers. These women have a reason to fear if everything that's being said is accurate. They can't just pick up and move their lives. So yes, the truth matters. And yes, he should have his day to answer to whatever allegations. But this isn't court either. So the presumption of innocent until proven guilty, we're not dealing with charges, we're dealing with allegations. So that kind of changes things a little bit too. And unfortunately, that's where it's been easy for people to say that this is just to get him not to run for political office and yada. It has nothing to do with that. But it's an easy target that people are like, oh, we can spin it this way or that way. When in reality, this is a bigger issue.
This is an important
Thank you,
thing. People are so wary of anybody and anything anymore because you wait and write a book.
Absolutely, Mona Lisa.
The world's on fire. And I knew about it 2.5 years ago, but I wrote a book to tell you about it.
Well, I hope it doesn't come out that you knew about some of this stuff and this was going on ops that you were with, because you would look really hypocritical saying that. Because yes, unfortunately, people do hold stuff and then come out way later, write a book and do a tell all of these things. Yet I need to remind people of something. This was a big issue within the LDS Church because of his connections within the LDS Church. The victim's attorney graduated from BYU. She's also represented other LDS members. It's not like they just went and hired some lawyer to represent them that's willy-nilly. She is also an upstanding Utah Society member. So it's, I don't know. Some of this gets into these like back and forth stuff, but people have smeared the attorney. Actually, a lot of Mormons have smeared the attorney when they don't even realize she is part of them. Whatever.
They're so freaked out. And this is one of the things the women are freaked out about as well, is Kavanaugh. There are all kinds of people that make charges and they don't turn out to be true. And all of these women didn't plan on telling their story. It's
Shannon. I'm very good point, and I'm also curious. That's why I have a hard time believing that he didn't know anything, because like I said, these allegations have been floating around for a long time. They had plenty of opportunity. This isn't like something that just came out. In fact, Lynn Packer released an incredible video today detailing more stuff. Y'all go look at Lynn's reporting. Lynn is ex-LDS. He is an investigative journalist, and he will break it down, facts versus fiction. And he don't pull no punches. He says, this is what is proven and this is what is not proven. This is what the statement, I mean, it is incredible. It's kind of hard to follow for some people that don't know like all the players and stuff like that, but he's incredible and he released a great video. I will kind of wait to see what they say about this whole situation.
that the story got out because there's a lot of people involved.
Awesome.
And the story got out, and then they felt like we can't be framed as liars. I mean, it's been an agonizing and very long 2 weeks for Blaze Media. I urge them to call their attorney. Today is the only day I will have time until next week to comment on it or to share the story.
I don't like that because he's putting pressure on people. Again, these are their real lives too. And it's easy for him to say, come out and release this but you have protection, whereas they probably don't.
Urge them to call their attorney and then Blaze Media
Miss Leah, I do too.
and release the story. If you choose not to.
Oh, Liza, yeah, we could get into all the attorneys that represent all these guys too, 100%. I'm just saying that they've tried every tactic to try and smear these people and sound like idiots, because it's LDS people saying, oh my God, they're just trying to do a hate campaign on Tim. And then it's the LDS church that has denounced him. The LDS church that released statements to Vice Media. The LDS lawyers that are representing the victims. Like, it's not what they're making it up to.
That's fine. We don't have to.
Hey, Linky.
But we will abide by your decision.
Now, I will give him credit there too, because he doesn't have to. He's already got it on record, according to him, that he has permission to release this. But he is not doing that because the attorneys asked him not to, and he does not want to re-victimize the victims. So I give him props for that. This is why this one's hard for me, because I can understand certain pieces of it, but I have a lot of questions.
But it's not good, gang.
It's not good.
And the reason I feel passionately about this, to find the truth and tell you, is because this one affects me deeply. And there is no way I can be on the air and point a finger and say, justice, where is justice? Where are the people in their own party? Where are the people in, you know, in the news media? You know why they don't report that? Because they're all involved, or they're all friends with each other, and they won't stab each other in the back. Truth is truth. And if it means I have to say things I don't want to about somebody I consider a friend, so be it.
I'm going to hold him to that when the story actually does break. We'll see how this plays out.
Truth is all we have. As a recovering alcoholic who violated the trust of everyone who I was close to, in the end, when I was left with nothing, and I was literally down on my knees at my lowest point, I realized the only thing I wanted back was not my money, was not my fame, was second to my family, quite honestly, because I knew I couldn't get my family back if I didn't have this. And what that was integrity. And I vowed, I will do what you want me to do. I just want my integrity back.
That's going to be questionable for a lot of people. It's torn. You're allowed your opinions on him. There is a lot of interesting things about Glenn Beck. If you don't know, we're not getting into all that because it's a deep dive, but integrity is huge. Huge. And as of right now, Tim has 0. And it's unfortunate because he won't even... so many people are being dragged into this. I don't think people quite understand that either. Some of you do. I know that, like, some of you have been following this just as much as I have. But we're talking men like Tony Robbins, who has been buddies with them and promoting this and making him millions of dollars for these 501c and these charities. Glenn Beck, they have put their name on the line supporting this man for years. It's not just some willy-nilly thing. They put their businesses, their integrity behind Tim. Yes, Kels, unless there's something behind the scenes that I can't find, the last I knew, Glenn was baptized into the Mormon church in 1999, him and his wife. I know that there's been some ups and downs with his faith throughout, but I can't find any like formal excommunications or him leaving the church. I just don't know what his member status is or how much he's involved anymore. He was at one point in time. Those things are really hard to confirm when people, it's basically the church would have to make a statement or the member fully and be like, this is what all of it. And a lot of times they don't do that.
I cannot tell others to do what they should do without doing it myself.
Oh,
Please.
Willow. Yeah, a lot of connections. A lot of.
Tell the
Hold
truth.
on, y'all. Sorry.
American financing.
All right. So that's all he had to say on this. A little interesting to me because he used some powerful words like re-victimizing, that all you have is integrity. You know, he's really hitting home. He says that he feels Tim kind of basically fucked up, and not those words, but those are my words. I don't know what's going to come of this. Tony Robbins has still been silent. Yeah, Lorraine, has he I don't follow him like that. I haven't listened to his podcast recently. I'll dig deeper to see if there's anything about the church and his current standing. It doesn't really matter here or there. I know Paul isn't a part of the church anymore, Paul Hutchinson, but there's so many people that this affects, and Tim's like gone rogue. Like Glenn said, he was on the phone with him until 3:00 in the morning, trying to get him to come on record and like, let's get this out. Nope. Oh, Linky. Yeah. A lot of them stay friends. A lot of them leave the church and they stay friends. I mean, that's really common, like having Mormon and ex-Mormon friends. I mean, it's just their faith at the end of the day. But some of these people like Tim have used their LDS faith to put them in positions within political affiliations and other things. So it's crazy. It is wild. What do you guys think about his statement? Tell me what you guys think about it so far. What do you think he is basically saying? What are we reading between the lines? And please feel free to say whatever you want. This is an open chat. This is an open discourse. We are adults and can have constructive differing views, and totally fine. That's what's needed. I want to know what you guys think about this though, because I felt really torn about it. I was really impressed with the fact he doesn't want to re-victimize the victims. He's not jumping to like assumptions. He stepped away from it. Adam, yeah. I can't get away from that feeling that it's going to be worse. The way that the people that are closest to Tim, such as Jimmy, Eric, the fact that Tony's been silent, the fact that this is eating at Glenn the way it is, I'm like, oh, thank you, Will. Yeah, this is something huge for me. Like, this is from living in Utah, though, like being around the LDS religion, and then the fact of how the Sound of Freedom got mixed in with the Jim Caviezel, and like, there's just so much. There's so many power players in this with millions of dollars, political affiliation, religious affiliations, all different things. Like, it's complicated for sure. The Jodi Arias trial. Oh yeah. LDS, absolutely. A lot of formal religions or organized religions, they tithe to. Or you can be like Tyler Feller and just have a YouTube channel. And yeah, Willow, I just moved out of there. I just moved out of Utah. I'm originally from Montana. Well, I was born in North Dakota, raised in Montana, and then I lived in Utah. We lived in Utah and Northern Idaho for quite some time. So this shit's like right up my alley. And now we're in Arizona, which is one of the big LDS states too. So it's crazy. He wants a standing back. I think he's using these people. Could be. Yes, Linky. Linky's like, the Jodi Arias trial is crazy though. I don't know what's going to come. I'm afraid though, with listening to Glenn's statements and then even Eric Mutzos, like, you got to remember too, like, these are operatives that were chosen, volunteers who were hand chosen to go on these missions. So they are educated, articulate, good under pressure, potential ex-military, law enforcement. We don't know. There was one actress that came out, that Marisol Nichols, that she was on one of them. But there have been people that have came out that were ops, and they are very upstanding citizens. It's not like some slummy. So that also leans credibility to who they would be. And that's a little freaky for Tim, in my opinion, because they're just as credible with that kind of stuff as Tim. Tim worked for the government for 10 years. Yeah. Yeah, Autumn, 100%. I feel like and I think that he wants the women to tell their stories because he believes them. I really do believe that he feels they are credible. And whatever he saw now, remember, they've got recordings, they've got text messages, they've got communication. So there is actual proof behind from what they're saying now. Again, we're reading between the lines because unfortunately we'll be the last ones to know. But there's proof if we're believing these guys that they've seen it. He's saving his own butt. He talks eloquent, but he knows more than meets the eye and wants to be portrayed as a good guy. I can agree with that too. For me, I just can't. Could there have been an opportunity where they felt something was off, but they didn't quite know, or they were worried about their friend and thought it was something else possibly and didn't know? Now, remember, we've also heard that marriages were broke up because of whatever these misconduct allegations are. So this has been brewing. This is like people in OUR were getting divorced because of this. So this isn't something that people weren't aware of. That's what I'm having a real hard time wrapping my head around this, the way it's all fallen out. I don't know. Yeah, Tazzy, it's going to be interesting to see. And if a male a volunteer for OUR, is afraid of what's going to happen when this story breaks, I think he is in full Sia mode. Oh, shit. Hold on. Let me go here. But I'm glad to hear he's taking it seriously. I'm really curious about the connections of the raids, the orphanages. Yes. Shannon, that is one thing on my thing that I've just started getting into is Catherine's adoption fund and the involvement with that, because that to me is huge, because we got one of them on, I think it was 2 days ago when we were reviewing a live, and they were talking about, it was Jimmy Rex, and he was like, they bought a child, or I don't remember exactly the exact quote he said, but he screwed up, and he was like, basically said that he felt great when he was going with the church members to give $20,000 to be able to bring a child in. And it just made me feel gross. Like there was just something there that sat way off to me. And now you have Sean Reyes too. That's a weird connection. So we have potentially, Tim was told by Nephi, who, if you don't know, that's an LDS angel Nephi. It's like a big deal in the LDS religion, passed on. So supposedly the psychic that they were working with channeled Nephi, and he had some vision that Tim was going to run for office and announce his Senate seat run on the 10th of October, which is coming up in a few days. I don't know what's going to happen there, but that's what they first said, was this is a political attack, trying to take him down, a smear campaign. If you supported this stuff, you were a peace supporter. That's not the case. Oh, Autumn. Oh, those tattoos that he had. Did you guys see that? Let me pull that up right quick. He actually brought Katie on video. Will, this is deep shit over here. Oh, Liza, yep, good point. Very good point. Yeah, there is definitely a lot of interesting stuff with the LDS involvement too. And a lot of these guys are trying to say that they didn't know he was using a psychic. So if you don't understand the whole psychic medium thing, Janet Russo is a psychic medium that has worked with law enforcement in the past, which is very common practice for people to use psychics. I'm not against it. To each their own. Your beliefs are whatever you believe in. But what they were doing was Janet Russo was channeling these deceased, passed on LDS high up angels and prophets and all this stuff. And the prophets were telling them where to go find these trafficked children. So they were taking intel that Janet was getting from these LDS prophets and going to these areas that she would tell them with that intel. And that's all they would do for surveillance, and that's their information. They would go in, and granted, they would do more surveillance, but that was a lot of Tim's intel was from this psychic that was channeling LDS prophets. Like, the shit can't get crazier. It just keeps getting crazier and crazier. Oh, Lanky. That's good to know. I'm glad to hear that. There's a lot with the adoption agency, and I'm just starting to get through it. Yes, Shopaholic, 20K. 20K. KL. Yes, there is some great adoption stories within the LDS Church. This is just a really interesting one, and there's a lot of side pieces to it. Please do not show him getting his tattoos. I'm not going to show him getting the tattoos, but I am going to show this. Hold on, let me get through these comments. Sounds normal to you? Which part, babe? Oh, Linky, that's amazing. Intel from a psychic, yes. And a lot of these people said that they didn't know that that's where he was gathering his intel. Like, they didn't know who was giving him this intel. They thought it was top secret. Well, come to find out it was just Janet Russo. But a lot of these people said, but then there's documents that support that they fucking knew. They knew a long time ago that he was using it. So it's getting to the point where I don't know who to believe, because you have high up politicians involved, and it's like, shit. Oh yeah, Linky, it's needed. Some are Linky, but there's the upper echelon. This one particular, Christy, yes, is in the United States. Well, a lot of Haitian children, and they're placed in LDS homes. It is through Catherine Ballard. Lorraine, I don't think I know what you're saying in your comment. Yeah, we got to get into the second anointing too. Yes, Lorraine. Lorraine knows. Lorraine's in this rabbit hole right along with me. We're like deep in this shit. Like, y'all, the connections and all this shit are just wild. It like just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. It's crazy. Hold on, let me pull this up. Just one moment while I do this. This shit, I was actually laughing. All right. All right. Remember the other day when we were talking about the tattoos? Okay. Oh, we gotta have volume. Make sure you guys can get this one. Wrong one. Share this tab instead. Okay, I just found this to be crazy because he won't go on record, but he's doing all this type of stuff.
My name is Natalia, and I have been an undercover operator with OUR for over a year. I worked on various missions with Tim Ballard specifically.
Okay, this is one of the ops, but I will get to Katie in a second. This is Natalia, who was an op. So he won't go on record, but he's pulling up people, blurring their faces, that are telling these type of stories.
Ranging from different countries, different continents. And during my time working with Tim, there has been zero inappropriate behavior, any sexual contact, any inappropriate sexual contact whatsoever before, during, or after a mission. Everything was kept very respectful, very professional. In fact, I think the OUR team went above and beyond to make sure the safety of both the operators and the victims and anybody involved in a mission. During my time in our different missions, we had to deploy different tactics depending on the scenarios, one of which was the couples rouge, which involved us posing as a couple. During those missions specifically, there was, again, absolutely zero sexual contact, touching, anything inappropriate of that nature. Everything was very much professional and respectful through and through from start to finish. Hey there, my name is Natalia, and I have been an undercover operator with OUR for over a year. I worked on various missions.
She does not state who she worked with, though. If you pay attention, she does not state that she worked with Tim on the couples ruse. You can make of it what you want.
Hey there.
Hey guys, I want to tell.
Hold on, I gotta find. That's not the one. Oh, here's Katie. All right.
Hello, everyone.
Hold on. Go back to this one. Okay. This is the tattoo artist.
My name is Katie. I am a temporary tattoo artist. I took that picture of Tim with all his tattoos, and for the purpose of recreating those tattoos later on at another time, the exact same tattoos. So the tattoos turn out like this. They're like a black blue color, but they are temporary, so they last 2 to 3 weeks. It's similar to henna, but what I use is called jagua gel. So the process is this. I draw the tattoos on, I freehand draw them, and then they have to dry for an hour. They can't be touched. You wash them off, and then they reappear looking like a real tattoo. So as a part of his disguise, he would get temporary tattoos, and they needed to be recreated so that they looked real when he would meet people more than once. So sometimes I had to recreate other artists' tattoos on him. And other times, I think other artists had to recreate the tattoos that I did on him. But sometimes when I would take a picture, for example, of his leg, and then next time he would come see me and he'd want the same thing on his leg, we couldn't remember which leg it was on. So my solution was, let me get a farther back picture of all of the tattoos so we know where they are, exactly which ones he got, and which leg, which arm it was on. So the picture was basically just a reference so that they could be recreated. And that is all. That is what the picture was for. So we could recreate those temporary tattoos and put them in the same spot as before. Thanks.
Okay. Again, fine. Totally fine to get temporary tattoos if that floats your boat. I mean, you guys know I'm tatted up, so I'm good with that. But my question is, again, if you're not in close proximity, as we've heard many of them say, oh, yes, Lorraine, I've got pictures of him and Tony from like way back when on ops, and Tony's in disguise too. It's fucking hysterical. We're going to get into Tony Robbins. I've been deep in that hole. But if you're not in a position where you are ever in like a position of being nude with the victim, right? Like they've said many times that would never happen. Why are you getting fuck tattooed above your penis in Spanish? Why would that need to be recreated? Because they would never see it. As Jimmy said, he'd been on many of the operations. The whole thing was they would get proof that the girls existed, and then that would be it. That was all they would need. Then they would get law enforcement. There's just so much that is not making sense here. Yeah, Liza. Yeah. Right? It just doesn't make sense, though. This makes no sense. And he is the only operator that did this. The only one. Something's just not jiving here. Oh, T, that is a deep rabbit hole. Like, I didn't even know how far him and Tony were connected and all the inner workings of that. That's why I went and like started digging. I didn't know a lot about Tony Robbins, albeit I've never cared for him. But watching like how that unfolds and going back and finding some of their old interviews, and like, it's just crazy to me. You think they're setting Tim up? That's valid. I mean, at this point, anything's possible. So that's why I'm saying, like, you're entitled to feel whatever you feel. I don't feel they're setting him up. I think Tim is slimy. I think Tim is grimy. I think there's millions of dollars that have been funneled into OUR that should have gone into actual trafficking organizations that are really helping with trafficking or trying to do something for trafficking. But there's just so much we don't know. Yeah, Shopaholic, right? There was Lorraine. I felt it was scripted too. Yeah. There's a lot. Could be, though. I mean, really, it could be. Swindig, you could be right. At this point, nothing's off the table. This just gets crazier and crazier. I do really encourage you guys, though, to go watch Lynn Packer's reporting. The reason why I tend to push back on the whole thought that there's nothing going on here is because they've been covering this, investigative journalists, not Vice News. I know people are like, oh, it's because Vice is, you can have your thoughts there 100%, but there's other journalists that have been really detailing stuff and are flat out saying like, this is not fact. This is, this isn't, this is, and it's not biased in my opinion. It is unfortunately, a lot of LDS involvement. But now even the LDS owned newspapers are reporting on it. It's crazy. Lanky Tor. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Hey, Patty. You remember him from 20 years ago? Yeah, Patty. He's been around forever. Helen, there's something. Yeah. Liza, did you hear? You probably weren't here. So one of the interviews we went over, he claimed that, I think it was on the Adam Carolla podcast, is where he was mentioning how he would be in the bar or these clubs, right, in Cabo or down in like the strip club area or whatever. And he would have rum and then his Coke can. And he would take a drink of his rum and then he would spit it back in his Coke can because he's LDS and he can't drink. And then the other guys were saying, like, just drink, like, don't risk blowing your cover. And he was like, oh, I can't do that kind of thing. Like, he plays the goody two-shoe act almost too much for my liking at times too. Because I guarantee he would have had the blessing from, the uppers in the LDS church, like Russell M. Ballard, who he was really close with. Now, supposedly that is also why the LDS church pulled the rug and are denouncing Tim, is because he was using Russell Ballard's affiliation and friendship to basically somehow maneuver this, like he had condoned these things that Tim was doing. Like he had given Tim permission. So that's where the whole like faith manipulation piece of it comes in. Spiritual manipulation is what they're kind of saying it was. I don't know, y'all. This just gets crazier and crazier. Timmy definitely has a Messiah complex, I will give it. Thank you, T. Yes, shopaholic. Yeah. I did not inhale, right? I know. T, that was one of the worst interviews for sure. And I was really like, I'm still taken back by the whole Adam Carolla thing because I like Adam. Like, I have a hard time not liking Adam. I think he's freaking hysterical a lot of times. But he was either completely walked into that interview blind. He was handed a script. See him, like, the wheels were turning. Like, when they put that picture up of Tim with the tattoos, I swear Adam was sitting there like this, like, listening to Tim's story and going, like, it just, you guys watched it with me. It was crazy. Rachel, I hope you're feeling well and get some rest. I hope it went extremely well. I don't know, y'all. My head hurts with all this stuff. Okay, so tomorrow, what we're going to do is we're going to go over some of the Lynn Packer stuff. I'm going to start talking about some of the Tony stuff, and we will get into a little bit of the 501c and talk more about the adoption stuff. That's going to take me probably hours and hours of research and like really thorough research to really get the adoption stuff laid out. And that's something that's really important to me to get accurate, because I find that to be like, I'm not going to come out here and make allegations that are just outlandish or anything. I really want to do that justice. So I really want to put research into it so we can touch on the basis of what I do know at this point in time, which is, I know quite a bit, but I want to go in depth with it, because that to me is one of the biggest problems. If you go back to the whiteboard of these secret meetings and stuff, it's chaotic. And Jimmy was not present at the whiteboard meeting, but Paul was. And Paul is Jimmy's mentor. I would love to get Paul on camera. I would love to get Paul on stream and talk to him. I would love to interview Jimmy, to be honest. I would love to interview those guys. Yes, Lorraine. And the second anointing. We got to talk about that too. We got to talk about the second anointing, because a lot of people don't even know what that is. And that basically means if you have had the second anointing, which is usually for the upper echelon, the rich, wealthy guys within the Mormon church, once you have the second anointing, which is just a very select few, a lot of the LDS will say it doesn't happen, but the only things that you can really be condemned for after you've had the second anointing are like murder, basically. You can do anything else. You've got a free pass on everything else besides murder. So I don't know how that will go. Yeah, shopaholic. I'm reading his like facial. I would love to. We talked about that the other night. I would love to see a body language expert break that down. Right? That's the way he talks about it is if you haven't watched some of those, I should post I'll post some of them in my community tab because I would love to hear what some of you think about some of these interviews. Willow, if you're still here, I would love to hear some of your thoughts on some of this sometime too. It's just a lot. Like, it is a lot. And then you connect in, like, we haven't even got into Eduardo Vestal, whatever his name is. I can't ever pronounce it right. But some of the other big money supporters and people behind The Sound of Freedom, the movie, and all of that stuff. Like, it's crazy. If you want another side of this coin, if you want somebody that's giving like the LDS perspective from a Mormon perspective, extremely non-biased, well, that's a lie. We all have our biases, but from a Mormon perspective, like a devout Mormon, I would suggest you go watch like Ward Radio. That would probably be, they kind of crack me up. They kind of annoy me too, but I have been listening to them just to get to the other perspective of things, to try and like open my mind. Maybe I'm tunnel visioned because of my experiences. Like, Liza, they didn't even carry weapons, is according to what some of them have said. Like, you should really go watch Jimmy Rex's breakdown of this. You would be like, so basically you guys went to party. Like, it's not this paramilitary operation. The ones that have been described are not what, I don't know. It's really confusing. Oh, Rachel, can I share what happened? Rachel had surgery. She had a surgical procedure, so she's healing up. I know she shared it in chat the other day, so I don't think it's a secret, but yeah, Helen, I know, me too. The Jimmy Rex interview was very eye-opening. But then if any of you have followed like Mormon Swing Talk, Jimmy actually interviewed one of those girls too. I've been watching some of that. Jimmy drives me nuts because Jimmy talks about himself 99% of the time, which fine. I mean, it is what he is. But watching those were kind of funny. I think he was flirting with her more than he was interviewing her. Yeah, Helen. I don't know. Yes. Okay. Rachel, I was like, I don't want to overshare. All right, y'all. I'm going to get off here, though, for the night. I just wanted to share that with you guys. Thank you guys for all coming in and watching. We will get deeper into this. I will keep you updated on anything recent that comes out. Right now, we're just kind of in a holding pattern. Like, again, please go watch Lynn Packer's recent video on Lynn Packer on YouTube. They also have American Crime Journal, which is Lynn and Damian Moore. Damian Moore is an incredible investigative journalist, extremely well-rounded. They have been covering this stuff for years and have nitty-gritty documents on some of this. So thank you, Autumn. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. I will see you guys tomorrow. And we will talk all things. Oh, one more thing before I leave. Did you all see the shit with Kevin Franke wanting to have his oldest daughter arrested? Tia, thank you for becoming a member again. Thank you so much. Because she took some of the property out of the house. That's a whole other thing we need to talk about. And Bonnie's been making videos too, which I just want to go through the phone and smack that one. Yes. Well, okay. We'll do that tomorrow. We'll get into that one too. Maybe we'll do a couple short lives tomorrow and talk about that. Yeah. Kevin wanted to have Sherry arrested because she went to the house to get some of her siblings' belongings because she ended up taking the two older ones with her. The other two are in Southern Utah, but she ended up taking two of them. And they went, yeah, for theft. For theft. He wanted, yeah. Yeah, Kevin's yeah, there's so much more to that. Yeah, super dad my ass. Kevin needs to be right where Ruby and Jody are, in my opinion. But you know what she had? She had some cellular devices. She had some passports. She had some computer stuff. I wonder what he doesn't want her having. And when the officers told him no, that they wouldn't press charges on her, he was like, you'll be hearing from my attorney. I don't know. And Bonnie supposedly was seen with her when she went to the house to collect belongings. So we'll get into all that tomorrow because there's news articles and stuff on that. And it's just like, yes, journals. I know. That's what I want to know what the hell he was so freaked out about her getting. Yeah. Right. Doesn't that sound just disgusting? They can't have their things. The abusive cycle continues. Liza wouldn't, and they would be on private planes, in my opinion, so they would be able to, there's a whole lot of shit. And it's a scary world that they're going into. Like, this is a very dangerous underbelly world that they're going into for sure. Yeah, Elle, absolutely, for sure. Yeah, it's really interesting. Hey, Denise, thanks for stopping in. Okay, y'all, we'll talk all things Frankie tomorrow, and we'll get into more of that, and I will pull up the articles and show you because my mind was blown. I was like, this is bullshit. Also, one more thing. If you are local to Arizona, Pascal just covered a story about a girl named Carly Cardenas. I was going to cover it myself just for awareness purposes, but I've been researching and I'm not finding very credible information. So Carly went missing at the end of September with another boy. He came home 2 weeks after he was missing. She was eventually found and brought home at the end of September. She's 14 years old from Casa Grande, Arizona. Well, she was brought back home. She was placed in DCS custody. She wasn't returned to her parents. And the reason for it is the dad was charged with child abuse and some pretty horrific things. I encourage you to go over and watch Pascal's breakdown of it. But after being placed in a foster care home by DCS, she's gone missing again. She took off from the juvenile home. I cannot find any more current information, but the dad has been charged. I'm sure he's out on bond now. His bond was $75,000. She was found in Texas, but then she went missing again when she came home. The dad was charged with abuse. He had been taking nude photos of her, claiming that she was self-harming, and that was his way of stopping her self-harming, was to have nude photos of her. She also had blood draining from an ear one time. There's and I can't find any credible information, like factual, like new stuff. So the last I know that Pascal does you want me to drop Pascal's link? Let me do that right quick because I was heartbroken. I was literally heartbroken. Let me drop this. Pascal. I'll drop the exact one. He goes into all sorts of stuff about this. I was just like, no. Okay. The link that I dropped is the exact link for Carly's video that he did on it. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Helen. I know. Like, these are channels. I told you guys I'm venturing out into uncharted territory. But that was something that I had kind of like paid attention to because local. And then when I saw that he did an update on it, I was like, well, she came home. Like, she was home. Definitely go look at it. I was like, I got this shit. Yes, this one, let me see. What day is it? The update he did 4 days ago. It's a 38-minute video. It's great though. Like, I really like his coverage of it because he's straight to the point, doesn't fluff things up, doesn't nothing. It's about awareness. And I really like that for sure. He does really good. Kyle, I think you would even enjoy his coverage of stuff. All right, y'all. Now I am done. I'm just over here rambling away. Oh, and again, for those of you that asked about my live earlier on my backup channel, it will go back up. I just, for purposes, Laura, the part of Molly's, when Laura called Molly, her phone number was in the call. And it is the number Molly gives out publicly all the time, like everywhere. So there isn't really a big deal behind it. But just for purposes of being careful, I am editing that little section of the video out and then it'll go back up. But yes, Elle, you need to. All right, y'all. Good night. I hope you guys have a wonderful night and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you.